Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another video on Paralives. So they did drop their big 45-minute gameplay video yesterday. If you want to see my full reaction of it from beginning to end, I'll leave a link in the video description to the Twitch VOD where I live streamed my reaction. So that was fun to do, but this video is going to be more of a recap of all the parts that I found interesting. So without further ado, let's get right into it. They do start off briefly in the Paramaker just to introduce this character that they're playing as, Milo. Since they dropped that Paramaker focused trailer some weeks back, I don't really see much point into going over all of this again. There isn't really anything new to go over, but I do like that there is the train ticket there in the bottom right that has some of the statistics like the age, gender, and voice. And I'm really glad that vegetarian is a totally separate thing from the main personality points that gives me like Sims 1 and Sims 2 vibes. And then you also have sleeping habits and cleaning habits that are separate characteristics, so that's really neat as well. In live mode, there isn't that much we see of the town. They just stick to the old town square here. So there are just 4 needs to take care of: hunger, sleep, bathroom, and hygiene. Below the wants, there are different cards that you can click on. For example, Milo's feeling happy because they chose the overjoyed vibe for him in the Paramaker. And when they clicked on the happy card, then there were 2 different wants that they could choose. So they could find a job in the music industry or clean something up. Find a job in the music industry came up because Milo's chosen talent is music, so they did go along with that one. Another important aspect is goals, which are your para's long-term objectives. So to start off, we have settle home, find a job, place a decorative object in your home, and cook a meal. These so far remind me of The Sims 4's aspirations, where they are little missions that act as a sort of tutorial. Completing these gives XP towards your personality level. There is also this newspaper called The New Paper. We can see it says Monday, Spring 1. So they do have seasons, but just not the weather effects implemented yet. And there are a couple of different stories that can happen every day. Some of them are just funny flavor text, but then you have functional ones like that, like a list of activities to do around town, and also a free 100 paradigm coupon that you can also take, and then that'll just add 100 paradigms to your household. So there's Discover the Town that they also have for goals. So there's like collect 5 gems, mushrooms, or artifacts, make a donation to the museum, make a donation to the community center, buy something at a shop, and become acquaintances with 3 people. It looks like there's even newspaper stories that can develop as time goes on. For example, there's this train one that I got a good laugh out of. Train broke down. It could never happen, they said. That quote is probably meant to be read sarcastically, but the alternative that there's just this amazing, perfect train that people genuinely thought would never ever break down is way funnier in my head, so I'm gonna go along with that. Mayor Gloomberg also reminds citizens to stay hydrated, so moral of the story, keep your trains hydrated, otherwise they're gonna break down. But then a couple of days later, it says that the train needs a new engine, but it's only deliverable by train. So that is quite the dilemma. So I really hope they keep these in the game, and maybe there's even some sort of resolution to that story eventually. I don't know if they plan to put in a functional train station eventually, maybe when they have more than one town in the game, but even right now it is kind of just like funny stuff to read that helps still kind of make it feel like there is more going on around you. And it does remind me of playing Simcopter when they're just flying around and there's like really silly radio ads that play every now and again. Speaking of having the town be alive, it did look like there were a decent amount of paras always walking around, though they were phasing through the front doors of these venues that you can visit. So hopefully they'll add an actual animation for those later. But when you do go to visit other places, you just click on the front door and then there's a visit interaction, and then clicking that causes the interior to load. So it's not always loaded constantly. So That is good that they do have something to help the game run better overall, but we'll see that in a little bit. For now, they actually focus on getting Milo's first job. So you can actually see with these buildings, they have these now hiring signs. So you can go up to the building to get a job, which is really nice. I like that there is this realistic way of doing it, though, of course, you can still find a job through the phone as well. But I kind of like the idea that you can also just go out into the world and be like, oh, hey, this place is hiring. Maybe I'll just go and try this out. There are a lot of jobs that they have here, though. At this point, Milo is not qualified for most of them, but it is interesting. Like, they have so many in there right now, and it looks like they are all going to have different locations in the town. But at the moment, when they are ready to go to their shift, they just teleport away. Like, you don't see them walking over to that place first. So hopefully that is also like a thing that they add in later. And yeah, because you can even see there's the thumbnails for each and every one, but at the moment they only have this picture of the cafe for all of them. I do like how all the jobs are categorized by industry. I just think that is a nice touch. And there are different shifts that you can take on with the job that you choose. So they worked with an option to work from noon until 1700, and the work days are from Monday through Thursday. So they have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. Interesting that they do operate on a 24-hour clock. Hopefully there is an option to change it so that displays the 12-hour time, because that's what I'm more used to. So they ended up choosing music therapist at a hospital, and that's it. They got the job, so it says that they'll start next Tuesday. Selecting that job did satisfy their want to get a job in the music industry, so they did get 10 points towards their personality level. And then when it does level up, there are perks that they can choose, which we'll see later. One nifty little feature is that you can pin some interactions so that they will be at the top of the interaction list. And with ones like run here, for example, you can have that pinned, and then that also makes it so that you can right click on the ground to instantly make that para start running over. So that's really convenient. It does save you a click in the long run if that's something that you want to do a lot. So yeah, it moves quite fast. And this is really cool. I did not think that they already had functional homes that were so integrated into the town square like this. I just assumed that if they were going to show part of the world, that it would be like a suburb or something like that. But that's cool. You have like this little apartment, and then it seemed like there was at least one other apartment for sale right next to it that we didn't see the inside of. Now to talk about skills. So you can see Milo is working on programming right now, and the speed of gaining that skill is dependent on the emotions that he's feeling. However, you can also see this technology skill below it that is going up at a slower rate. So each skill in this game is part of an overarching category. So programming falls under technology, but then there are other skills that also fall under technology. So when you work on those other skills, then they'll also build up technology. For example, we do also see Milo work on graphic design skill for a bit, but it does raise up technology to the point where he does end up hitting level 2. There's actually 20 levels for every skill, which definitely sounds like a lot. They don't have a new thing for every single skill point gained, but they want to hit that eventually in the future. Okay, so there were a couple of times where you could see a para walking around with an exclamation mark over their head, but it was never explained what the point of that is. Maybe they can give you a quest, but yeah, sadly never explained. But they do show how the cooking system works. When you click on the fridge, you are able to see the different recipes that a para knows, and they won't always all start off with the same ones. But we can see that Milo knows a veggie burger, tofu dog, pepperoni pizza, and then at level 2, there's peanut butter toast, which they're only at level 1 for food, so it is riskier to make that one. So at this point, food doesn't really have that much varying quality. It's just, okay, you can either fail at making it or you succeed. So it's either edible or the food actually can become spoiled over time. Though I'm not sure if there's a leftover system implemented yet, where you could say like store them in the fridge. So they settle on a frozen pepperoni pizza, and looks like it is actually, yeah, it is a group meal already. So that is good that they already have that going in the game if you do have more than one para living in your household. They did end up getting enough points to level up their personality after making that meal. So they went over to the profile section, which we mostly already saw in the pair maker, but you can just review that if you want. And then you can click that level up prompt to choose one of 2 perks. So personality level 2, they get to choose a perk for their talent, which happens to be music. So there's music makes you feel better, where playing music for 2 hours unlocks a reaction to remove all sad emotions that are 2 or less, or happy tunes, where playing music unlocks a reaction that gives every household member happiness. Soon after, Milo goes to sleep, and it is explained that when you go to sleep, your wants get reset. Moving on to the next day, they try to make acquaintances with some paras since that was one of their goals. And it is interesting the twist they put on the formula here for social interaction. So you have this together bar that appears next to Milo's portrait, and you can see he's talking to Orion here. So it takes 25 minutes for that to build up, and then you can choose a direction to take the conversation. So there are 3 different social interactions that you can choose. As you progress through a conversation, there are options that can come up that only have a certain percentage success rate, and there are other ones that can also come up depending on your para's personality. So for example, there's one to attempt to make everyone happy, which is there because he has the overjoyed vibe, but it only has a 58% success rate at that point. While in a conversation with another para, you can also see what's influencing the other para's current emotion. Things like a vibe emotion bonus inside a happiness aura, as well as from social interactions that have already been done. There is a social tab on the left where you can check your para's current relationships. So with Orion, for example, they're both acquaintance level 1 and friend level 1, since there was a friendship card that popped up partway through their conversation. Then we get to see the Story Nook, which is a cafe venue. So there you go, just like click visit, and then it fully loads the inside. So yeah, it's quite nice so far. It seems to have a split level thing going on. Unfortunately, nobody's tending cash registers in any of the venues that we saw. So hopefully they can get that implemented by the time early access is released. But you can see there are different foods that you can purchase, like egg sandwiches and croissants. And then you just pay some money and you're able to eat them. Soon after Milo is done eating, he teleports off to work. So just a bit above the time, you can see it does say that he's at work, 4 hours remaining. And you also get to see more of the Story Nook here. Love the little kids play area too. That's really cute. Once you're done a shift, in addition to getting money, you may get an upgrade point for your job. So there are other things you can see on the job panel here, like how many vacation days you have, what rank you are, how much money you're currently making, what your performance is, and also strikes and perks, though they don't have any perks at the moment. So the choices they had is to simply rank up without any perks, but then the other 2 choices are very low on staff. Gain 250 per day, but shift ends 3 hours later. So it's basically acting as overtime. And then 20 ideas to rest, plus 1 inspired per vacation day that you get after each workday. I think this is really interesting as an idea to keep careers fresh. Though if you don't want to do like any of these perks, they're not forced on you, since you can still just rank up normally without any other things on the side. One little helpful feature that they did confirm is that if you hover over the Paris portrait, you can center the camera on them if you end up losing them. And yep, still some glitches, like Para's walking right through the staircases. Milo then meets Antoine, and here's something interesting. Because Milo is good at making friends, right off the bat, there's an interaction choice for attempt instant friend introduction, but it only has a 45% success rate. It does fail, but I don't like how Antoine didn't really seem to have any visible reaction. Like, it does say on the UI that it failed, but you'd think Antoine would have gotten upset or something, but it's just like, oh, yep, it failed, and that's it. The conversation just moves on. Setting up group interactions is pretty easy. You just click and drag until the rectangle has the other para inside of it, and then you get a chalk outline with that other para instead of just yours. So then when you just click an interaction like go here, they both automatically go there. So they go into this plant shop where you can buy various plants, and on the little stand beside the cash register, there's a free plant that appears every day. So that's a cute little incentive to go and check back every day. Yeah, you can see even they both bought the plant. So I don't know if Antoine's even a playable para, but I wonder if they will implement that at some point where, say, you switch over to Antoine, will he have that plant in his inventory? That would be kind of interesting. It is called Paralives, after all, where you have lives living in parallel. Later, the guitar is shown, so there is a skill for guitar, and it's under the overarching category of music. I noticed there's also a triangle skill, it looks like, so I'm very curious to check that one out, because we really haven't had that as a musical instrument in a life sim before. And while I'm not playing the audio of the video here, you are able to hear a pretty visible improvement as Milo improves his guitar skill, where at first it's just kind of like messing around with the strings, but then at guitar level 3, it already starts to sound more like an actual song. The antique store is another shop that is shown, and there is a pedestal near the cash register, just like the plant shop, though it's not a free item, but it is an item that is very heavily discounted, like this duck-shaped candle here. And there are quite a few items that you can buy, and they may be on sale as well. So it can actually be on occasion cheaper to buy an item from the antique shop than it is to just get it straight out of build mode. So again, that's really clever. It's just a nice incentive to actually go out into the world and explore instead of just, okay, yeah, I'm going to go into buy mode, get this chair or whatever. The last thing that's shown is how to flirt. So they had Milo just go to the mirror, and there is a think about love life interaction. So then he got flirty as one of his emotions. And then they found this other para, Pauline, and started flirting with her by admitting to being extremely attracted, which already had a 79% chance. So there's this little wheel that comes up with romantic interactions specifically. And yeah, it was working so far. And then there's like that card there. There's something here to add romantic interest +1 to their relationship panel. But then they ended up asking if Pauline was single, and she's not. So that was an awkward ending. But at least we got the basic idea of how to like initiate a romantic relationship. But that is it for now. So overall, I did enjoy this video. I think it was about on par with what I expected. Like, I wasn't super blown away by it, but it was still a fun watch, and it was interesting seeing more of how the live mode actually works. And I think there are some really interesting takes on the life sim formula here. We saw kind of glimpses of it before, like with the careers and also how the socializing works. But seeing it all work together, yeah, I'm really excited still to play this in 2026. It is a shame it got delayed by about half a year. But then I do see things like, okay, yeah, the para walked through the stairs, or that there's nobody tending the cash registers. And then we only saw a very tiny portion of the town. And I'm guessing it's because this part specifically is the most presentable at the moment. Like, even nearby, you could see there's a pharmacy, and I think that will be functional at some point too, because they did already talk about that there is going to be a sickness system, like you can get sick because of a coworker. But yeah, I think even that's not ready yet. So considering they are charging $40 for early access, I think they do feel like they want to iron out more of these things and have the town be just more prepared overall for when people have their first impression of playing this game. It's going to be really interesting following the progress of this game, I think. I know in the most recent developer Q&A that they made public through their Discord that they might focus a lot just on hotfixes, a whole barrage of hotfixes to start out with after we have that initial early access release. And then at some point slow down a bit and focus more on new content. Just thinking back to that initial announcement where they promised things like cars, pets, seasons, boats, even horses. I still can't believe they announced horses that early, because horses are notoriously really difficult to do right. So it's going to be interesting to see how long it will take to get to the point where we get really cool stuff like that. I'm guessing not until like at least 2 years later. But anyways, I'm going to wrap up things here. So feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, what you think of this Paralives Live Mode gameplay. And be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching.